It's good to see you guys. Excited for this week. It's a good meeting today, good practice, a lot of good energy there. This is a big rebound week for us, so we're looking forward to the work that we got to do to play a good game on Saturday. I know Saturday night will be exciting, so we're looking forward to that. Any questions you guys got?
Coach, after watching the tape from Samford, have you noticed any improvement in the defense overall, especially going against another dynamic quarterback and receiver duo?
I think it's going to take every day intentional focus and effort by coaches, players, all of it to get to where we need to be. I think there's some improvement there, but certainly not enough. I think we're going to be way tested Saturday with really physical run offense and big play offense, and a guy that we got to locate and try to get more than one dude on, and so that causes a lot of issues. And so for us to play really sound physical defense in that type of landscape is something we just really haven't been a part of yet. And so, we got better today. We've got to continue to get better. There'll be work, kind of volunteering, guys watching film together, and all of it the rest of the day. It's going to take that every day to get to where we need to be.
Dave, you said last week you wanted to see maybe just sorting some of those issues out this past Saturday. What do you want to see this week in terms of that bounce back, like you were talking about?
We have to play more physical on O-line and D-line.
Dave, are there any young guys like Caleb Burns or Micah Gifford who showed that they're ready for larger roles against Samford?
I think it was good to see them making plays. I think when you make plays like that, you can gain some confidence. And so I think there's some confidence now behind their game. And so I think that first step's always kind of a big one because you're kind of stepping into a void, and then you kind of find your footing after that. And so I think they can clearly see the next step. I'm excited for them to take that next step.
Dave, regarding the 4 takeaways that you had against Samford, how much of your defensive identity do you want that to be a part of? And do you feel like you took some steps?
I hope so. I think, I think the excitement about guys getting takeaways was good to see. We had a couple today in the 2-minute period that we had, and there a lot of excitement with guys getting it. And so I think everybody wants to be in that bear coat, I think I think once you kind of get it going, it can be contagious. I don't think we've got it going yet, but I think there's a want-to, and I think guys recognize the importance of it, and it needs to be a part of, I think with our offense and our ability to score as fast as we can, and the offenses that we see and how many possessions there are, I think we have to get takeaways, and so it's a must.
Sawyer responded this week, maybe after one of his tougher weeks, I guess.
Yeah, I just walked by him. There's a like a skywalk there, and he's out there with Trig right now, getting extra work, and so I think he's very motivated. I think you always, as a coach, you feel like you need to say something. You really don't need to say much to him. He gets it, and he's on it.
What did you see from the rushing attack this week, and maybe getting some of that going after maybe not that much success in the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think we've had more success with stretch plays and wide zone than we have with inside zone. At the end of last year, the inside zone was by far kind of our best style of run. And we just haven't been able to get the movement up front, and I think some of it has been, at the end of the game, we're running into loaded boxes, runs that have RPOs attached to them. We really should be throwing it, and we weren't. And, I think B. Wash was, there's 20 guys in there, and he's, running through 18 of them. And so I think there's a whole improvement there that's got to take place for sure. But I think the ability to run them wide with the stretch play and get that loose to kind of soften up the middle with the inside zone is how we're looking at it.
Dave, when you talk about O-line and D-line improvement, is that personnel or is that just those guys getting better?
Those guys getting better, yeah. I think, our movement up front, the line of scrimmage, You know, when I broke the team this morning from our practice, you know, I told them, hey man, the line of scrimmage, those first series or two, it's going to go one way or the other, and that's really going to be the game. Kind of where is that push going? How's that look? And so we have not, you know, 3 games in, we have not decisively won kind of that battle, you know, and we've won some games without it. In this game, I think to win it, we're gonna have to win that battle.
Dave, will we ever see you in the bear coat?
No. I think Vic does a great job of finding those things, and like I say, I never would have thought people would really be interested in it, and so I think that just shows how far removed I am from how they think, you know, and so they're fired up for that, man. They're talking about it. They want their pictures. They want it on the Jumbotron, and so, hey, man, let's just get takeaways, you know.
Do you use it in practice too, or is that just a game thing?
No, that's just a game thing. Yeah, I think that we had a couple guys kind of pose as if they had it on, so it's a full-on thing right now.
Dave, what does Arizona State do especially well?
They're a game plan outfit on offense. I think they will look at your structure and design plays for that. I think they're a big play offense. You know, they try to feature zero, and they'll move him around to do that. Quarterback is very dangerous scrambling. We've played some quarterbacks that are dangerous scrambling. He's right up there, if not the number one guy of all of them. I think he's very fast, and when he decides to kind of cut it loose, he can make big plays. Both throwing it on the run, but running it for sure. I think the running backs are a squad that's kind of coming together. I think they're looking to get healthy and everything, but they're a talented group. You know, obviously there's a big miss from last year, but I think they've got a competent and really solid, really good group. So it's a challenge for us. I think the line of scrimmage for them is a lot of returners and veteran guys, and so they handle movement really good. The ID, you know, pressure, and they're able to kind of sort through it and pick it up and move it out the way. And so, you know, they play a brand of ball that kind of bullies you. I mean, if you let yourself be bullied, they'll take it, you know. Then defensively, I think, you know, a lot of pressure in big time moments. I think linebacker-wise, really talented. I think front-wise, they got 2 edge guys that can win one-on-ones, and they'll here lately a lot of zone, try to force the ball down until it gets into pressure moments, and then they heat you up. I think that heat up thing could be around any corner. I think they use that and call that out pretty effectively.
Obviously a different year, but after last year's start to Big 12 play, how are you guys approaching this beginning of conference play and maybe starting faster and emphasizing that?
I think it's just, you know, the team that we've got right now focusing on kind of what we've done well and how can we multiply that. You know, if we've got really good people, could they be better served playing more? Could they be better served in a package? Could we take some of the calls that we're doing here and put it into this personnel package because these guys are playing well? I think anytime when you're starting to learn your team and guys are playing well, you want to feature the stuff that's going good. So I think that's going on right now. I think that's a way important part of this particular time right now. Along with that is the stuff that we're not doing well. We got to get it fixed. We got to find ways to change how we practice, change how we meet, change how we think about things. And, you know, I think the morning practices are good in that respect. It gives coaches a lot of time throughout the day to kind of sit it down, break it all down, go by it piece by piece and put it back together. Now, a lot of times the things that you do all the time you don't recognize. There could be thoughts that you have that are just constructed that you don't think about. And you have to break that down to kind of get to, here's how we can get better. So there's a lot of that going on too.
Dave, is there anything cool or exciting about playing a Big 12 opponent that you haven't played yet?
I'm excited just for. I mean, I've always been a fan of this particular team. I know there's a coach. When I was younger, I would always travel. I remember my mom drove me this time because I would drive to visit these schools to go talk with coaches, and I'd go to Cal or I don't know, Stanford or I think I went to Arizona one time. So I told my family hey, I need money, so I'm gonna drive to Arizona State, and so she didn't want me to do that. So she drove me. So we went to Arizona State, and there's a coach over there named Johnny Barr that I used to meet with. Phil Snow was on that staff at that time. Kevin Wolfhausen, all these guys, just Bruce Snyder's staff, unbelievable staff. And I remember, Arizona State, the campus kind of turns into the downtown. There's like a downtown area that looks pretty cool, and it goes into campus. And so my mom dropped me off right in the middle of that. Mom, please pull off to the side. Can we go in the back before you drop me off like that, So when I think of Arizona State, I think of that. But yeah, they've always been a fan. I've always been a fan of them, and so I'm excited for this game. It's a big game right off the bat. I'm excited for the opportunity.
To that end, you were kind of disappointed in the focus maybe on Saturday. Do you think starting with Arizona State, defending champs, night game, maybe the team in the Big 12 coming into the year, is that a good thing for this team?
I think anytime you kind of give in to a judgment thing where this is important, that's not important, this deserves my attention, that doesn't deserve my attention, I don't think it really works like that. I don't know. I think, everything's important. And, I think what's hard about that is that it's almost like a body snatcher thing where it's the same dude and, but he's not there. And you got to shake him, and you got to do all these things to kind of wake him up. And you kind of give in to that voice of, hey, man, it's this or it's that. And so the issue with giving in to that voice is that, obviously this week with whatever jerseys we're wearing, whatever time of night we're playing, whatever the opponent is, all these things, I'm sure guys are going to get going. But then once you have adversity, then that voice kind of comes back into play, and you already gave into it one time. It's easier to give it into a second time. And so I think that's a big deal, and we have to be better at that. I think we've got guys with a lot of pride and have a lot of professionalism in what they do, but I think that's something that we have to improve on.
Was Carl out there today, and do you expect him to come back this week?
Yeah, he was going through everything today, so excited for his opportunity. He's fighting hard to get back on the field.
Dave, Phoenix Jackson looked a little banged up out there on Saturday. Where's he at this point this week?
I don't know. I think he's still kind of getting evaluated. I hope to know later this week. He's someone that really high hopes going into the season. We're hoping that we get him back here soon.
Seems like that depth has been tested pretty early on this season just because of some of those injuries. How have you guys worked through that, and how do you continue to work through that, maybe mixing some new guys in? Yeah,
they've been working in throughout. I think, that's something where it's kind of a double-edged sword, I think, on defense, particularly that first week, even the second week, where you're not playing as well as you'd like to play. And you try to get something fixed with the group that made the issue and made the problem, had the mistake, and then a whole new fresh group rolls in. And they're just happy to kind of get on the scene and to bring them up to speed and, with all of it. And then it hits them in the mouth, and now you're kind of 2-3 steps behind with them. You feel like you're never out in front of it, right? Whereas, what is it? It's kind of 50 first dates when you're rolling people through. And so when you have the same group through, right, that mistake builds kind of a library that they can go back to and see. There's always the ability to see on the sidelines, and obviously we preach that. I think it's another thing to go through it, And so, there's always an issue with playing a lot of guys, but the positive thing about playing a lot of guys is kind of what you're talking about. You have guys that have played, have some experience. You feel comfortable with them getting in. So that's where we're at right now.
In that same vein, as your D-line gets healthier, guys like Jackie and DK, do you see that affecting how much you use peso, nickel, or dime packages? Sorry.
Yeah, I think some of the question goes into, who's our best players? How do we feature our best guys? Are these our best guys? Does this give us the best chance to win? Does last year's structure or the year before structure, does that help us win this year? Is this year a different year? I think all those things are happening.
Dave, you talked about the adversity earlier. LeVar obviously went through some of that the week before. Talk about the way he bounced back and played a lot better this week.
Yeah, I think he's got so much ability and so much promise, and I think, what he's lacking is really just strong confidence. I think he is such a great kid and wants to please and wants to do well. I think, he's got all the ability to go out there and demand stuff and take away stuff and tell whoever's lining up against him, I'm going to take it away. And I just think, for guys that are like LeVar, you have to kind of go through some stuff to build up the insides to be able to get to that point where you could say, I'm going to take away stuff. I think there's dudes that just come out the gate that are like that. LeVar's got a lot of positive things. He's just not that way. I think he's working through it. I think once he gets to the point where he lines up and there's that look in his eye and all that, then watch out. He's very, very talented.
Now that Ashton's eligibility stuff is kind of behind him, has that freed him up to maybe have the start of the season that he's had?
Yeah, I think he is someone that Sawyer looks to. I think, you look at Trigg and you look at Ashton. I think those would probably be the two. And there's a bunch of weapons there. You could probably argue for a couple other guys that have been making some plays here lately, but I know that those are two that he has a comfort level with, and they kind of see things the same way. And so Ashton's a big part of it, whether it's just the energy on the sideline or the playmaking on the field. He's someone that our guys, when Ashton's on, there's juice all throughout the team that just come from him, even if he's not playing. If he's on the sideline, people can feel it.
Dave, on the block punt, was that something y'all dialed up or something you saw or what?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's interesting now with transfer portal and NIL and everything else is, you can identify guys that are really strong, like straight line speed. Whereas maybe in the past, some of those, where if the game is a game of this, those guys would find it hard to find a spot, in any 11, on defense or offense. But there is a place for, hey, from point A to point B, this dude's fast, man, and goes, right? And doesn't mind getting kicked in the face or whatever else comes with going, And so now it becomes, hey, if there's a guy in the portal and he has that ability to do that, you can go get him and you can build a special teams unit of guys that not only return it but block it. And I think that's the case there. And so, we hope to get more. He's got the ability to do it. That was a deal of running a straight line, putting the dude to your inside to get them to block down and take the space. And he did it.
Dave, when you look at this battle of the quarterbacks, that's kind of, I guess, where most of the eyes go on the outside. How do you think that's being handled internally with Sawyer and just going up against one of the other Big 12 quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think with Sawyer, it's going to be, how can I get better? How can I get back to when I'm playing my best? How can I take this next step? How can I help this team win? I think those are all the things I know that he has publicly said, or said internally, I guess, to us. And so I very much believe that with him. Just like I say, coming up here and he's still on the field with guys, I think he's very in tuned in terms of this is a week to improve. This is an opportunity not to be missed, and he's leading us into that. So, I would bet on Sawyer. Okay, thank you guys.